Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down. Let's talk about the suffering. It's time to start the pay. Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down and strap in. This is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt. Let's talk about the suffering. It's time to start the pain. This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
We run through our lives searching for meaning. There is a serenity in finding a place in this world. Going job to job or lifestyle to lifestyle, we never really reach that type of peace and purpose that everyone is searching for. You'll find people saying, I know I'm meant for something more. That's often because they're in a wrong current situation. That situation is comfort, and often comfort will slowly kill you. Those that are lucky enough to find a purpose in life, they become fulfilled, happier, and much more pleasant to be near. We look up to these people, hoping to grab onto what they found, the secret sauce that makes their life worth living. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and we're back with another episode of the Suffering Podcast. Today we sit down and we bring back one of our oldest and dearest friends, the Hurricane himself. Mike DePalma is in studio. Mike, thanks so much. It's great, man. It's awesome to see you.
It's really, really good to be
And Mike,
here.
did you notice that Kevin doesn't read the intros live anymore? I mean, that's
I do get it. I
it's-
actually like it.
Well, I think during Mike's original episode, which was like episode 13, if I'm mistaken, you read the episode.
Yes, I
You
did.
read the opening.
And I got through it without a hitch.
Oh, without a hitch. It was about 10,000 ums and ahs. Don't believe the editing, buddy.
Quiet.
Before we get to anything, I want to thank our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. If you're looking for a car, let them help you find a car. Go to toyotahackensack.com. I buy my cars there because they're the few car dealers that I trust. They treat you right. They treat you like somebody special. You're not just a number that walks in the door. So go to toyotahackensack.com. Also, don't forget to visit belladamacigars.com. Put in the code SUFFERING10 for a 10% discount. Chantel has been one of our most avid advocates, and she continues to do so. So go support her because she supports us.
And tell Chantel we said hi when you call her.
So Mike DePalma. Oh, it's so great to see you, brother.
Great to see you guys.
Mike DePalma.
I miss you guys.
The Hurricane
Yes,
Mike himself.
We missed you too, but we'll take better aim next time.
I had a few hurricanes after, just little ones.
Before we get into any, because it's going to be nuts. I've already prepared for it. Let's get into this week's social media question. And this one comes from Susan. It says, have you ever come across anyone you believe should have never been a cop? Mike, you're our guest today, so I want to lay this one off on you. You worked in an inner city department of Hoboken, and I'm sure you've seen, throughout your whole career, you've seen many come and go. What do you think? I'm sure you've seen people that should have never been cops. Is that correct?
True.
All right, what do you think the characteristics of somebody who...
You're asking one.
Yeah. People said that about Mike.
Stop that now.
What do you think the characteristics of somebody who should never be a cop is? Because, Susan, this is kind of a general question, but I pulled this because we're doing the suffering of police today. And we've all seen people who should never been cops, but I want to talk about characteristics. What do you think a characteristic of somebody who should have never got the job?
I would say being on the street and watching somebody for the first time, and everybody has an instinct. You could tell somebody who just didn't really care, for what was going on or anything around them. I think it's just first encounter. You could just tell. I think every police officer, whether you're new, whether you're older, you can just tell somebody's personality.
It's the situational awareness that seems to break down when you see these young guys. Mike, you've had a long career, and you've seen them come and go, and you've seen people at the beginning of their career in the academy when you taught there. What do you think are some of the characteristics of somebody who should never be a cop?
I think one of the main things of being a good cop is street smarts.
Yeah.
Like you said, situational awareness. I mean, you're getting these kids that are getting out of college, and this is their first job. They got no world experience, and the only reason they're getting it is because of entitlement. Daddy has some pull with the mayor or something like that. So these guys are getting out of college and thinking this is the real world, and they don't even know the real world yet. We have guys who, it'd be 5 minutes before your shift's over, and you get that alarm call, of course, on the furthest end of town. And you send them down there. It's like, I can't believe I got to go. Shut up and do the job.
Take your overtime. You're making $30,000. I mean,
and then the square wheels kick in, and
yeah. Oh God, the square wheels. Yeah, you're right.
It really just cracks me up that they really take the job for granted. I know you need a college education to get a job now, and I think that is mainly because you used to be able to get the job at 18 years old. Now, a college education, you have to be at least 21, 22.
Well, the criteria has changed the way the job is done. You've read some of these old-timer reports, handwritten reports and stuff. It's like, yeah, I went here and I talked to the lady and everything's fine. And that was their report.
Our guys used to just put medical call, give the address, transport it to this hospital. That was it.
For me, it's pretty simple. I think there's a couple different people that become cops. Some of them, it's just a job. And that's honestly why I got the job. It was just a job. I found out quickly it was more than just a job. But then there's the people who got shoved in lockers in high school, and they get a little bit of power and they get power hungry. We've all seen that throughout our careers, that people who get power hungry and they abuse the shit out of that power. And
they hide behind the gun and the badge.
And you watch them in the public. They treat the public like shit. And then there's the situational awareness where you're oblivious to everything. I remember a new officer came in and he stopped the car, and we had to back up the new officers on every stop. And he goes up to the car and he puts his hands on the door jamb with the window's only halfway down. He goes like this. And he's halfway in the car. I go, what are you doing? I pull him back. I said, not in front of the people. I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, if they roll their window up and you're halfway in the car, guess what? You're going for a ride, whether you want to or not. So it's instinct. It's you gotta drop your ego. You gotta release that power trip. And those are the people I don't think should ever be a cop. And there's plenty of them out there because we all need hooks to get in. Let's give everybody a little insight on how people get the job. And it's not an uncommon thing for me to, hey, Mike, who's your hook? I already know. We've talked about it. I know your hook. Who's your hook? So explain to everybody what a hook is.
A hook is somebody that pretty much pushes for you, whether it's higher ranking, whether it's, political, so forth and so on.
Benefactor.
Right. You'd never go to somebody in a corporate world and say, hey, who's your hook? It's just not done.
I'll tell you a great story about that. When I first came on the job, there was a lieutenant that lived across the street from me growing up, So he saw me in my little fun and crazy little world I was in, on the block. And something came about and that actual word was used. And they go, this guy's got a big hook here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And that big hook was the chief of police, So it's, but in inner city Hoboken, we still had to take a test, And prior to that, I was military. So, it was just, it was a common thing used.
But there's a lot of people that were in your same situation without that hook. And here's the value of a hook. The value of a hook is you're coming in basically on their name. So they're not going to want anybody in who's a bonehead. Those days are going away, and I think that might be some of the problem.
Well, there's a lot of talk about nepotism and all that. Yeah. Is it right? No. Is it wrong? Not totally.
Not totally.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You got a kid whose father's been a cop, and a kid's been hanging around the cops his whole life, especially small town like Lyndhurst. You knew the kid growing up. You knew what he was all about. You knew what he was doing, and, so sometimes it's good to actually know the person because you know right from the get-go what you're getting.
And they've been schooled. They've been schooled behind the scenes. I work with a kid, and I worked with his father for a very short time before he retired. And I remember his father telling him, he told me this. He says, if you got to go talk to somebody, talk to me. Don't talk to don't tell anybody your problems inside the police department, which we all are very guilty of. But that was some old school schooling. And those things are going away. I watch people where I work now because I still am involved with a lot of the local police. They don't want to take road jobs anymore. Road jobs are good money. There's your entitlement.
Yeah.
There's your entitlement.
Exactly.
But those types of people. There's lots of different ways to get the job. So let's discuss the different ways you can get that job. Of course, there's your hook. What are some different ways that you know of?
Well, even with a hook, if it's a civil service exam, that there's really nothing, that can be done.
They have the 1 in 3 with civil service too.
Well, right.
So if someone comes out number 4 that happens to be related to the chief,
right,
they're going to skip someone 1 in 3.
Agree. And even my situation, I think I was number 77 on the civil service exam. At the time I wasn't a veteran, so it went all the way down there. So you could see, people were being eliminated, and they actually got to me and Nikki Burke. We were both back to back. So yeah.
Let's get back to
I love Nikki Burke.
Let's get back to the social media question. People who shouldn't have gotten a job.
You know what? Wait a minute. I just thought about some with that social media. I don't want to keep on going back, but Mike made a good point.
He makes
in Lyndhurst, no, you growing up in the town you work in, you see what's there.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's another way you could say, hey, this guy might not be a good cop, but not in all situations. Some people just become great cops, but
in Mike's case, he was just very good at filleting.
Filleting?
That's a big word for him.
Yeah. Wait, I just want to listen. No translator here. How am I doing? Am I doing good right now?
I had to dust off my DePalma Dictionary, so I'm good. For those of you, we'll have subtitles in English for Mike DePalma.
Andrew's got a Hudson County interpreter, just so Andrew knows what's going on.
So whenever you hear the term water, like caffeine water,
this is water.
Black cherry caffeine. It's actually great.
The mango is really good too. Listen,
Yeah.
Ron owns from Mickey's Pub. We've been there. We've hung out there. Hey, you got the Mickey's on. I was going to wear mine. Thank God I didn't. I looked like a schmuck wearing a red shirt on the podcast.
Because you wouldn't look as good as me. But go ahead.
So Ron's always been on our side. I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to Caffeina. But I joke when I say filleting, which is getting on your knees, and I used to call them promotion pads. So every time you got a promotion, that's some thicker knee pads.
Kevin is well schooled in filleting.
It was so good for you. They kind of fashioned your name out of it, right?
I made it to lieutenant.
Exactly. He has to take a lot of duck butter in his mouth for that one.
How'd you know my chief's last name?
Oh God. But this is part of the job. It's part of laughing and being able to interact with your other officers. And we joke around a lot, and everybody sees that we joke around a lot. But there are some people who come in this job who think that they're like Mr. Clean and they're not going to joke around, and they never really get it. And those are the people that usually burn out very quickly.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, if you're gonna eat this job and you're gonna take everything home with you, you have to have some kind of way of releasing it. We call it all the time. We fill in a glass. If that glass keeps getting filled and and you don't have a way of decompressing, I mean, the job's going to eat you up.
It's funny you bring that up because in the intro, which you two are not privy to yet, because I'm going to hide that from both of you, I talk about how everybody's given a glass in the beginning of their life, and that glass is used to fill only a certain amount of shit. And police officers' glass are built no differently than everybody else's. But if we don't release it, it will eventually spill over.
Bring up the prairie fire too,
No, but I hashtag prairie fire. I do hashtag. So listen, for those of you out there, I want you to make a comment. I want you to hashtag prairie fire and hashtag real Kevin Donaldson, and I will get back to you. I promise you I will get back to you.
Hashtag episode 9.
I got to get up to date with these hashtag things. You guys are doing it to me again.
Listen,
you're really confusing me
all the time. He's like, you got to hashtag this. I don't even know what a hashtag is. It's that number sign thing.
I couldn't tell you what they do, but I know you got to do it. That's all I got. That's all I'm going to tell you.
We say hashtag this.
Hashtag Hurricane Mike. Hashtag keep suffering.
I remember. I was actually excited when you used to do that.
Hashtag keep suffering.
I
So
do
I
remember.
hashtag that, yes. So hashtag is just a little buzzword. Get the word out there. So if somebody searches by keyword, they can find your stuff. That's what it is. But so we joke around a lot, but there's a lot of different reasons, and especially there's diversity in this room as far as why we took this job. And there's diversity across the country why people take their job. There's some people who take it for just a job. Some people have a calling. Some people are forced into the job through nepotism. Are there any other ways that you know, or any other reasons why you think people take this job? Dead silence.
I was going to say, you know, a lot of guys are like glory seekers. You know, they see the shiny uniform and, you know, they think they're going to go out and impress people. And these are the guys that get jammed up because they're the guys that just get out of the academy. They go into a bar and they got the gun strapped to their hip in the bar just to show that they're a cop. But, you know, look at me. I'm a cop now, you know.
God, when I got on, it was fanny packs.
Yeah.
I still got one.
I loved it. I loved.
But why did you become a cop?
He got fired from Burger King.
They made him take a test.
No, I passed that test. I guess I started in the military and it was kind of similar to that, and you know, it was my community, not my community, but I was born and raised there. I lived there. I kind of loved it, and
You're a Hoboken staple too.
well, I mean, it's
There was you and Stewie, and that's it.
no, it's a unique town, and you know, it's a great town and supportive, and I don't know, I really loved it. I loved it, and you know, unfortunately, as the years went on, and I don't know if everybody experienced it, it wasn't fun anymore. You know, like every single day I used to love it. You know, 20 years never took off. I loved, like, you know, smiling. It just, you know, and you know, things happened at the end of my career, but it didn't change, you know, what I did and the police officer I was. You know, I really enjoyed it.
Well, you know, I mean, and that's really the difference between like a good cop and a bad cop. You know, you got to thoroughly enjoy what you do.
I loved it.
You
yeah.
know, I mean, me and Kevin were talking a couple weeks ago about, you know, oh, they send you on this job, you know, because every call is called a job. In my whole career, I never considered this a job. I considered this something I love to do. You know, I can't remember one time in my career where I dreaded going to work that day. I mean, obviously, if you have
Even
something
when the
to
chief
do.
asked him for a blowjob, he was all in. He was very happy to do it.
Andrew, see where this is going?
It's going to be a lot of
Hashtag
really bad,
this, all right?
Hashtag blowjob.
Yeah, your picture will come up.
Oh, you could tell, you know, both you guys. I mean, it was, I loved to do it.
I laughed.
Like, I loved it.
I laughed more than I've ever laughed. I've cried. You know, I've taken the job home with me. But when I originally took the job, it was an offer. It wasn't a calling. I took one police test. I only took one, and I know guys do take dozens of police tests. I took one police test because I had an opportunity to take it, and I got on. Well, that's not true. I did have a hook, but he wasn't he knew it wasn't my lifelong goal. But once I got in the job, everything changed. Everything changed. I realized very quickly that this was something I was meant to do from the core of my soul. The problem was it got taken from me way too quick. But there's different reasons why people take the job. I see a lot of apathy in it. They look at strictly the dollar signs. When you guys got on, especially, what was top pay? I think top pay when I got on was $60,000.
No.
You guys.
I know.
Maybe.
I know my
35?
starting salary was $24,000.
My starting was $33,500.
And then
You know, you didn't get in for the money at that point.
Right.
Maybe in the long run.
You knew you were gonna be-
purchasing all your stuff too, so
Yeah.
you're in a hole already.
Oh yeah, the inner cities always make you do that.
Yeah, I mean,
So the academy itself is going to cost you. That's a good point to get into. Like some of these inner city departments, I know Patterson was starting their cops off at like $19,000. I used to live across the hall when I was living in an apartment with a guy who just got on Patterson. $19,000. They had to buy everything. They even had to buy their gun.
Yeah, there's certain departments that make you buy your own gun. They'll
We
give you
had
like
to,
3 or 4 guns that you can buy.
Yeah.
And then you have to go buy your own
yeah,
gun.
we used to envy the guys up in the academy. Yeah, they just pay for this. I'm like, wow, that's
Yeah.
great.
I don't think I could have done it if my department didn't pay because you're talking $5,000, and if you go alternate route, it's even more.
That's when I started my account. My department bought me everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Bought
right.
me
That's right.
Everything. Listen,
We had to even buy our hat badges and everything.
They bought me so much, I didn't even have to steal ammunition from the range.
Yeah, but when you guys started, wasn't it like black powder?
Well, how do you think we're going to pay for it? I mean,
So it's you don't when even when I got on, I know $60,000 sounds like a lot of money, and you knew you were going to be okay. You were never going to be rich, and now the salaries are incredible.
Yeah,
Like
but
this-
nobody gets into law enforcement to be rich.
I think nowadays,
But you're
it
not going to
might-
be rich. You know,
Yeah.
especially in this area, living in this area and raising a family in this area.
Yeah.
You know, if you told me when I was a kid you're going to make $150,000, I thought I'd be a millionaire.
Oh yeah.
I mean, making $150,000, you're living almost paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, in New Jersey. So for everybody who doesn't realize, police officers in New Jersey were a little bit different than the rest of the world. We're not a right-to-work state. We are a union state, and the salaries can get very high. But what people got to realize is living in New Jersey is incredibly expensive. So we're a little different than the rest of the world. This should be the suffering of New Jersey police because that's all we know. I know, places in the South, they get paid not even half of what New Jersey gets paid, but it also is half the cost of living. So it all sort of evens out in the wash. But you knew taking the job that you were going to be able to make a living. You're going to be able to support a family. You were going to be able to support the things that you wanted to do. But now, again, I see it. Some of these guys are getting paid so well, and I don't know whether that's the same zest is there for everybody like it was when I got on.
Isn't it almost like a professional sports player? You know, how many guys you see, they sign
just
that big
thinking that.
contract and they don't do shit after it.
Yeah.
You know, because now they got the money. I mean, look at some of these basketball players. One guy, I'm not going to play. You know, I'm going to sit out because I'm having mental issues. Now, mental issues we all know are
every cop goes through
a key-
we shouldn't have went to work every single day.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just watching like this past basketball season. And there's guys that are just saying like, well, I'm not going to play this week.
Yeah.
What if you called your chief and said, nah, I'm not going to come in today?
You imagine if Dr. J or Will Chamberlain said that?
Yeah, no
But to
kidding.
bring your point home, Mike, you might have appreciated the job a lot more because you had to go through the suffering. You appreciated it at the lowest levels as a purpose. And yes, by the time you retired, by the time, Mike, you retired, things were different. Things were different. The salaries were better. You got a better living wage. But you didn't get into it for that. These kids now know, hey, listen, and their steps I understand they've increased in steps, and now they got to do 30 years, the new guys.
By the time you hit top step, you got like a year left to retire these days.
It's like 15. I think the average is 12. I was 4 steps to top pay.
I was 7.
So we did have it a little bit easier in that regards, but we weren't making as much money.
I almost got the top pay with my first department. I transferred out about a year before I was going to get the top pay.
But it was all
So
relative,
I
though.
built myself up. Then I transferred out. I had to build myself up again.
It was all relative. So I had an old lieutenant, and he had retired, and I knew him, so we're talking and stuff, and he was complaining about the high salaries of police. And I think at the time I had just bought a house. My house was, I think, $400,000. And he goes, yeah, when I started, I was making $8,000 a year. And I said, well, no disrespect to meanness, but what'd you pay for your house?
Yeah, you bought your house for $20,000.
He goes, yeah, I paid exactly. It was $24,000 for his house. I said, okay, so if you don't spend anything, in 3 years you can pay off your house. I'm making $65,000 at the time. I bought a $400,000 house. It's going to take me a lot longer than you to buy that. So it was all relative. And again, with the new cops, I have to give them the credit on this one too. The houses are more expensive. So yes, it's going to take them longer to pay off their house. But that's just one of the reasons that I see. And I see that in current police society now, that less of a purpose-driven job and more of a, hey, listen, I'm going to get paid a lot of money.
It's
That's
a money-driven
exactly
job. You know, like you said, you get these kids that are coming out of college. This is their first job. They're not making much money, but they're working all these construction details, these road jobs.
Yeah.
They're
were
getting
just
$90 an hour.
Yep.
You know, and they're killing it every day off. These guys are working every day.
Now there's two terms here I want to define real quick. It's rookie and veteran. I never liked the term rookie. I always took offense to the term rookie. You're a new officer. You just don't have enough street experience, but you have more book smarts than I do. So I never called it like that to me. That was just the word that I never used. But for this purpose, we'll call him a rookie. The differences between a rookie and a veteran. Mike, what do you think the telltale, aside from experience, because that's a given?
Well, aside from the shiny shoes and the polished brass,
squeaky leather,
the squeaky leather,
400 little things on the belt,
and the PR-24.
Yeah.
So
they've never done anything in a career, and they already have like the citation bars on it.
So a PR-24, you guys are well aware. No cop ever carried their PR-24. Nobody did. PR-24 is the baton with the handle on it for people who want to know. And I remember, so I never put mine on. I can honestly say that. But a couple guys came out of the academy, and they're coming with a PR-24. I remember taking it out of his belt. I'm like, and I threw it in the woods. I go, get this fucking thing out of here, man.
Dude, we had a lot of fun in the academy with PR-24s. Yeah. We had to keep them under the table on our, they weren't desks, they were just tables. And we had to put them there. And once one of them hit the ground, it's dropping a weapon. So you had to do 25 push-ups. So you'd see a guy like falling asleep in front of you. You'd pull your chair back, you'd hit your PR-24 and hit the ground. Guy's got to wake up, do 25 push-ups. It's a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, what was the most fun you ever had in the academy as a rookie?
There you go with that rookie again. As a new guy.
In the academy?
I told you, for the purposes of this, I'm going to use the term rookie. Or first out on the road or in the academy. The academy is a
hanging out
part. Going out for drinks.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you.
Let me preface it by saying I went to the academy with Mike DePalma.
Yeah.
No, you know what?
Nikki.
I kind of got obsessed with that truck guy.
Did you get
Still to this day, it drove me crazy. And,
what, the roach coach?
And I used to love Nicky Burke's reaction. I'm telling you, you don't understand.
Go to the fucking academy for the roach coach.
Listen to me. There was a different price for the same thing every single day. Give me $3.80, and I'm like, it was $2.75 yesterday. The hard-boiled egg, a banana, and a water. Like, how is this a water?
A water?
A water. I'm like, this is. So Nicky one day he got really upset. He goes, "This is bull. This is bullshit. I can't take it no more." And that was like, we got obsessed with this guy.
So I actually had the opportunity to meet Nicky.
He's probably still there.
Yeah, he is. I actually had the opportunity of recently meeting Nicky.
Oh, he's a great guy.
And I said, I can't imagine you guys in the fucking academy together. Jesus.
I was a squad leader, and Nicky was on my squad. So whenever he got in trouble, shit rolled uphill, and I got in trouble. The one time, he didn't have his uniforms tailored, right? And on the Friday before they're releasing us for the weekend, the training advisor comes up and says, "Burke, I want those uniforms tailored by Monday morning." He just looks at me and goes, "No problem, sir." So the instructor lit into him. "No problem, sir. I'd rather you say okie dokie, sir.
I remember that.
Who the fuck is your squad leader?
And
Sir,
then you get in
Failace, sir. Failace, get in my office right now." I'm like, motherfucking Nicky Burke.
One of my greatest joys, I was a squad leader. I was squad 4. I can remember it very clear. I was squad 4. And one of my greatest joys is my drill was a guy named Jimmy Marinara, and I didn't realize the value.
Marinara.
Yeah,
It's from Hoboken, I think.
I didn't realize the value of
second.
Jimmy. Jimmy was a Force Recon Marine. Like he looked like Scott Farkas from A Christmas Story. Green, like red hair, green teeth, smoked like a chimney, could still run a 5-minute mile, could stay in the lead and rest for days. And he was a little guy, right? He's about this tall, and he talked with a stutter. Serious as a heart attack. It was hard not to laugh at him. He was so serious. But I used to have to follow him for inspection, and my stomach is always fucked up in the academy. So I would follow him for inspection. I'd get in front of somebody, and I'd fart. And they'd have to stand there. I had a captive audience. They had to smell it. It was one of my greatest joys.
That's so torturing.
And I'm looking at him, and
you can't even move.
You see their lips curling. Because, again, I learned very early on that you can't take this shit too seriously. It'll eat you alive. And they knew it. Listen, it's all a game in the academy. We all know that. It's break you down, build you up. Paramilitary. I remember the first day I show up at the academy, and the instructor who knew me through other people, I didn't know him, and he says, "Donaldson, you don't belong here." I was like, okay. I start turning my car around. I'm like, I guess I wasn't on the list. I guess I got fired before anything. He goes, no, get back here. I honestly thought I didn't belong.
He was right, though.
He was right. He was right. I knew that was coming. Throw that fucking softball right up for you. Oh God. But there's a lot of different problems with police today. The current climate of police is very toxic. Bad press. We all get judged by our lowest common denominator, and it seems police today. Like, I'm thankful I'm retired with what's going on today. I'm so thankful. This isn't a political debate, but we get judged by this one asshole in Minnesota. All of a sudden, all police are bad. But what do you think are some of the other problems that face police today?
Social media.
Social media? You think they're getting a lot of trouble with that?
Definitely. Social media, cameras, and not that I'm saying it, things were illegal when, they weren't around. It's just, it's the eyes are on them all the time, no matter where you turn.
Oh, you're talking about citizens against them. I thought cops posting stupid shit on social media.
That's another thing, too. Social media. I mean, there's a million ways you can go with social media.
Yeah. I used to, there was, back in the days of the flip phone cameras, that's how you knew it was a good accident, because all the troopers would be out there on the highway with their cameras out, taking pictures of it. Yeah. Somebody told me you can't even do that anymore. There's actually a memo put out. You are not to take any pictures.
I rightfully so.
Yeah,
you're seeing people in their worst, their worst state, and last thing you want to do is have someone taking a picture of you like that.
I mean, I used to have my camera out because you get a car fire, and with a car fire, the tires will explode, but everybody thinks it's a gas tank. And I used to get the newer officers out there on a car fire, and I'd always have my cell phone back here waiting for the tire to explode and watching them shit their pants. But the optics on police are so bad now. They're so bad. And I don't understand how we got so far from us being saviors to being the bad guy all of a sudden. Always the bad guy.
Well, like you said, it's the lowest common denominator. It's for some reason people want to hate cops now. I don't know if it's, like you said, it's because of the salary, or if you want to call it prestige of being a cop. They just, it's like this just hate for cops. And I just don't understand it.
Until they need us.
Exactly.
Until they need us. Once they need us, all of a sudden we're pretty damn important. But do you ever think it's going to come back? The love for police? Or you think it's gone forever?
It's got to rebound sometime.
Yeah, it's
what are you going to do? Have a lawless society then? Just let criminals run rampant? I mean, I know they're letting them do it now. When's someone going to finally step up and say, we can't have this anymore?
Well, I did see something recently, and it's encouraging to me. So I got some friends. I got a lot of friends that are still on, and he alerted me to this, and then I read it. So the new attorney general, the old attorney general, did not like police, and he put this pursuit policy in place where you don't chase for anything, nothing. And when I came up, it was you ran from the police. It was a second-degree crime, which was something you could chase for. So doesn't matter what you pulled them over for; they committed a second-degree crime. So he puts this pursuit policy out where you don't pursue for anything. You see a lot of police departments getting solely SUVs and never any Crown Vics like we had. But this new guy that came in, he changed the pursuit policy, so it's changing a little bit. It's a step. It's something. It's something. But what else do you think needs to change in order to get that back? I mean, God, they got the body cams on. They can't even shut them off when they go take a leak.
There's not much being shown or said when police officers do real good.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's
exactly.
You see a police officer, something goes wrong, and it's just plastered all over everywhere, social media.
Because that's what sells papers. That's clickbait. That's nobody wants to see the cop that saved the baby.
Right.
They all want to see the cop that stepped on his dick one day and got himself in trouble.
Right. They don't like the first, say, 15 minutes, they don't want to show that. They don't want to show, what goes on prior to, whatever an action is. And it's the same thing. Like, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, it wasn't an easy job. Well, it's, mentally.
We all saw that in the Rodney King video.
I was just going to say that.
So Rodney King video, some of our listeners are rather young, and they don't know about the Rodney King video. Rodney King was a known criminal and had a bad drug problem. He takes the officers on a high-speed pursuit to a residential neighborhood doing about 90 miles an hour. The guy's high as hell on PCP. And they catch him. And it was
somebody crashed, though, right?
I don't know. They tell him to get out, and they're giving him direction. They keep telling him, get down, get down, get down, stop. But he keeps moving forward. He keeps moving forward. The cops are amped up from the chase. And did they take a couple bonus shots on him with their PR-24s? Absolutely. Absolutely. And they should pay the price for that. But you understand why they did it. They did it because their lives were just put at risk and they're pissed off. In that video, I've seen the entire video. You see the officers giving him direction, and you sort of understand why, even when they're hitting him, he's not going down. He's not totally stopping. So they go until the threat stops. That was a huge PR nightmare. And the police did I guess 9/11 had a lot to do with the resurgence of the attitude towards police.
But, and for as tragic as 9/11 was, there was never such a love for law enforcement and military back then.
Yeah.
I mean, people were just coming up to you and thanking you.
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was unbelievable
because
back then.
people got a glimpse of what lawless society looks like.
Yeah.
They got a glimpse of it.
And people got a glimpse of what cops go through. I mean, listen, it wasn't us there. It was, Port Authority, it was NYPD and all that, and the FBI and CIA and everybody else that was in there digging and, and the gruesome pictures of 9/11. I think that it just endeared people towards law enforcement at that point.
The unity amongst our own troops, because police, let's face it, we're crabs in a barrel. One tries to climb out, the other ones try to pull them back down. And even the unity amongst police themselves. It's a very undercutting profession. We all were brothers at that and sisters at that point, and we've gotten far away from that. I think, again, once somebody... I said this for years, that the attitude towards police is going to change due to an unfortunate accident, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope an unfortunate accident doesn't happen, but I think that's the only thing that's going to take it back to getting that problem resolved with the way police are viewed. But then there's another problem, and I want to bring this both up because you're the big fucking offender of this, is the administration.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah. So once you got above...
Offender of administration.
So once you got above sergeant stripes, you are now an administrator. You are now a superior. You're no longer a supervisor.
See, not necessarily in my role, though. As a patrol lieutenant, your job is the same thing as the sergeant.
I heard you were morale gear. You know what that is. What's morale gear in the military? Something to make you happy. That was.
Oh yeah. I'm like, what the?
Yeah,
See,
he's
you're trying to get me pinched again. You're asking me these questions like you put me on a spot.
I dealt with
that
this.
That wasn't on the list.
Yeah,
it's not on the
I don't even have the list here. You're just trying to get me again.
I'm not picking on you specifically because I not to sit there and give you a hard on or anything, but I did hear very, very good things about working underneath you.
Well,
that is true.
That's not the norm.
No, it's not the norm because when I got promoted, I took it seriously and I took it very personally. A lot of people had to get me. A lot of people had to do some behind the scenes work to get me promoted, and I never wanted to let anybody down. And I always told the guys that were working under me, I'm not the type of guy that's gonna bark out orders. I'm not gonna say, go do this, go do that, go do this. The way I gained their respect, I said, let's go do this. I'm a get your hands dirty kind of guy. I'm not gonna send my guys in to fight if I'm not gonna fight with them. And that's the way I got guys' respect. And like I said, being a lieutenant, in my department, when you're a patrol lieutenant, it's really the same thing as a patrol sergeant, because if that lieutenant takes off that day, the sergeant's in charge of the shift anyway. Right. So you're not an administrative lieutenant. That's where, like you said, the administration part comes in. I was a regular field guy.
But this is something that everybody can relate to across the board, because I work for a lot of good bosses, a lot of bad bosses, inside police work and outside police work. And the best way I can drive this one home is, so I coach football, and I gave the ref a little crap, and the ref gave me a lot of crap because he had the power to do so. That elevated my players to play harder, because they knew that I was getting scrutiny from the ref. When they started doing that, I was like, wow, you know what? I did my job. And I have to imagine, I never made rank. I have to imagine that it's probably the same feeling that when your guys work for you because you're looking out for them, not over them, that's what the job's about. Was that true?
Oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt. I mean,
You got to lead. Not you know, it's a good point. I can actually give a lot of credit to the way we came up in policing what we call old timers.
Yeah.
And
dinosaurs, old
right?
timers.
And you know what? I think that carried on into my career. I could pretty much remember tons of things they used to say to me. It's instilled in me. You know what I mean? And I guess it's the way you come on. You know.
Well, you live and learn from the good and the bad supervisors that you had coming up through the ranks. You know.
I probably learned more from the bad ones.
Yeah, exactly. Like you got a guy, like I said, he's a go do this guy. Go do this, go do that, go do this. I mean, we had one. We working a midnight shift, and it had to be about 5 o'clock in the morning. Lyndhurst isn't big, but my post was all the way on the other side of town. Sergeant at the time calls me over the radio and says, "Come back up into town, and I want you to." Someone called in and said that sequence of light, the red light is out. The sequence is out. So could you come up here and check the sequence of the light? All right, no problem. I go up there. As soon as I pull up, that sergeant was sitting right there. As I pulled up, he pulled away. Too fucking lazy to even sit there and check a sequence of a light. Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean,
I know. What you said, you gotta show.
You gotta.
If you're, as a. Same thing with the military. You can't just sit back and say, all right, you guys go into this building and you got to do it. You got to go and do it. Yeah, you got to.
You got to not.
People respect you, and if you don't do it, they're not going to respect you.
It's don't do as I say and not as I do.
Right.
Type of do as I do, not as that's you live by example on those things. Because I worked for some really, really bad bosses, and I think a lot of that comes from they didn't really work up through the ranks the proper way. They didn't do all those jobs. So when they got that power, they became very jealous if you showed talent for an area that they didn't have or they wanted something. I know the bosses that we had a guy who was in and then Roseland didn't have a whole lot of shootings, but we had a guy who was in a shooting in another department, and the boss hated him for it because he had never been in a shooting. I'm not kidding you.
I believe
disgusting.
Well, it's really a cutthroat business. There's a lot of jealousy that goes on in law enforcement. It's not what you get; it's what they're not getting. So they hold that against you.
The funny thing about all of this stuff that we're talking about is we didn't mention the hard part of the job or the suffering of the job as being the criminals.
Yeah,
they were doing their job. We were doing ours. And that's
and that's where respect came.
Yeah.
As well. I know it sounds strange, but that was the factor in an arrest or whether you're going to get a whooping or not, from a criminal. You know what I mean? I'm saying not by us. I'm just saying they respect you for that. You know what I mean?
I used to get in
there's
trouble.
cops that they'll throw down because they don't respect. They're gonna go after them.
I used to get in trouble back when I was married.
That's a different problem with police.
They used to say, I used to get told I treat criminals on the street better than I treat people in my own house. And I said, there is some kind of theory behind that because you almost have to befriend that criminal. You know what I'm saying? In order, cause now you got to go
see him every day.
You got to go through the whole processing. You got to either send the guy to jail or something. If you got a guy that's combative and you try to fingerprint him, it's never going to happen. So you had to talk to the guy, treat him like he's a gentleman, or treat the female, the right way. And so you had to treat him nice. I'd be joking with them.
Yeah.
How many times did I say
every which way possible?
Hey, bro, you hungry? I'll send the kid up to Burger King for you.
And not in Hoboken. They got what, grilled cheese and mud?
But they got the diners. Actually, I just knocked one down too.
Next time I go to Hoboken, remember, where is that place? Oh,
it's right by Biggie's.
Yeah, it's right by Biggie's or Wendy's, wherever it is.
It's a Hoboken. It's a Hoboken direction. All right, a Hoboken direction is they're going to tell you a place that has been gone for 20 years. Yeah, it's right next door.
We just expect you to understand. That's it.
Hold on, let me.
Hey, Kevin, just go down a block, just pass that up, and that's it. You see the gate there?
Page 20 of the DePalma Dictionary. But the police. One of the things that the public doesn't realize is we're human beings. and we see a lot of problems and a lot of people at their worst. There's a lot of damaging calls, and it weighs on us. What do you think, Mike DePalma, we'll start with you here. What do you think some of the most damaging calls to your emotional psyche that you ever seen?
Anything with a child.
Pediatric. Yeah. How many did you have in your career?
Probably about three or four.
Now, here's a big question. When you had those calls, did you have children?
At the time, no.
See, that was mine. I had pediatric and I didn't have children, thankfully.
Yeah, at the time, and I mean, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
you're talking, you run the range from domestics where somebody just got the snot beat out of them, or pediatric, or end of life where there's zero dignity. You know, people don't realize that everybody thinks you die
on a toilet.
You know,
Yeah.
it's amazing. There's something. It's when I drive through Hoboken now, you know, I try to remember playing wiffle ball or, you know, stick ball or this and that. Like, I'll go through Hoboken now, like, oh man, look at that building. That woman jumped off it. It's like everywhere I go. Oh, that guy shot himself in that place. Oh, this guy. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
You know, and it's you know, if you think about it, it's not great.
No, you take it home.
You know, that's how I remember. Oh man, this guy just jumped off that building. Oh, I went to take the pit. This girl just blew her head off. I'm like, holy shit. What happened to the wiffle ball? What happened to the, you know, kick the can and like, it's gone.
Yeah. Now it turns into, remember that place we used to play wiffle ball in the street? You know,
Yeah.
That's where the girl killed herself.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm
Now-
like, wow.
You relate it to crimes and just like nasty scenes that you've been to. And
It's the visual. It's the visual. Mike, what do you think? What do you think the most emotionally damaging calls to go on are?
Well, like I
especially
said-
for you personally.
pediatrics are big. You never want that. Thank God in my career I never had a pediatric death. But some of the hardest things for me were like doing CPR in front of family members. And that to me was terrible. I mean, we had one where a guy was having a heart attack. He was laying on his bed. We had to pull him off the bed, put him on the floor, doing CPR on him, and I'll never forget it.
You can't do CPR on a bed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
His daughter, she had to be about 8 or 9 years old. She was on the bed like this, just looking at us. She goes, "Is my daddy gonna die?" And it was, you know,
And you being the heartless son of a bitch, you did. Yep.
dead already. No,
You know what? You just say,
what do you say? You jump right. We're doing everything we can.
Yeah. You fall back into that routine. You gave me the COVID, didn't you?
oh, make no, no, stop it. I got
No.
my temperature thing done.
I've had some
Rectally.
pediatrics. Pediatrics are always very dangerous to deal with because you gotta go home after that. And if you have kids, the rule is, or what you're always told is, you will superimpose your children's
Right.
put some over top.
I got it.
Just
You don't think I write this stuff down when I go home?
translating.
He
So
was on the show once or twice, so he
Yeah,
wrote a lot of
come on,
stuff
yeah.
down. You-
Can't you hear like like everything is smooth? Now.
It is
I'm
smooth,
serious.
clear.
You don't even have to fill in my phrases anymore.
So you superimpose your child's face onto a lost pediatric death. But I remember, I think the toughest ones for me is when just the end of life, no dignity. You know, you go to some old person's house to render medical aid. They call 911, and you're there, and this old guy's got his balls hanging out, or the woman's vagina's hanging out, or boobs are out. You know, their teeth are on the ground. They got no hair. They're just there's tons of people around them seeing them at their worst, and I know for a fact, without you guys ever telling me this, you've walked out of medical calls talking to your partner or whoever you're with, don't ever let me get like that. Just take me in the woods, but two behind you. We've all said it. And it sounds very harsh for people to say, for us to say that, especially when we're in those situations. But I know I don't want to do that. I don't want to die.
But the
like that.
normal person doesn't see that every day. In law enforcement and, you know, EMS field, especially, you know, we see that on a daily basis. You know, we see people when they're at their worst. And how do you separate seeing someone at their worst, and especially coming from a small town, as someone you know?
That's a
Before we get into the most rewarding calls, I want to remind all our audience, one of our biggest supporters is the Grand Saloon in Clifton. Go out there and visit them. Nick will take really good care of you. Go to 940 Van Houten Avenue in Clifton. Great food, great fun. They're just go on thegrandsaloon.com. That's GRANDE saloon.com. Take a look at their menu. I'm telling you, it's going to be one of the most happy, friendly places. You're going to meet great food, good people, and you're going to have a great time.
I have to hold on. I got to reverse back. I kind of misunderstood that question about pediatrics. I didn't have. I just thought it was something else. I mean, I've had cases with pediatric. No deaths, but you just brought up something, and it was I was doing CPR to my own father.
Oh,
and you brought up the thing about the bed. Like, so that, honestly, I'd have to say, I was home, I wasn't on duty. Obviously, we're always on duty, but that was probably one of the most impactful things in my career. Like, and just like you said, I was by myself. Listen, I knew he passed. He was young, but that had to be, if I go back, that had to be one of the worst things.
Working on a family member, you know what? That's a different wrinkle. And
then you're like, you're like, I was kind of, I was an instructor, and you the guilt, like, it was just, but I didn't. That's why you throughout your career, you do as best as you could, because something like that could happen to your own. You know what I mean? So you treat everybody just like family.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because they're going to respect you for it.
Right.
You're going to give a little bit of compassion at the end of life, because we're all going to get there, brother.
Right.
We all got an expiration date.
The other thing, too, is what about that helpless feeling when you lost someone when you're doing CPR?
Yeah, you walk out, put your head in your hands, and
you feel like a loser, walking out past the family. I mean, we obviously did everything we do.
Can't look at them.
You're sweating like crazy. Your uniform's all disheveled because you're your bag valve mask and pumping on a chest and switching up, and everybody's. But you get that feeling like, what just happened?
Your soul is gone.
Yeah, and now you got to suck that in because you got another call to go through right after that.
Right,
and how do you leave that CPR call and just act like nothing happened and go on to the next call?
It sucks to deal with those, but it is part of the job. We all understand that it's part of the job. Doesn't mean we got to like it. Doesn't mean we got to move past it, because we do take that stuff home. But there were some great calls that we all went on. There were some really, really great calls. Some rewarding calls. Mike, what do you think the most rewarding type of call that you could go on?
I from what I've heard, I've never seen it, but a childbirth. Apparently very sloppy but rewarding.
I don't know, man. I've been there, and I started seeing it coming out, and I was just like, that's not natural, man.
But to me, pretty much the most rewarding were CPR saves. When the paramedics tell you, hey, we got a pulse back. Now you're sitting there, all that hard work finally coming to fruition, and now you're like, you walked out of there. Like I said, when you lose a CPR patient, you walk out there, you're, slumped over and, hanging your head. And when you hear that you got, they got a pulse back, and now you get some pep in your step. Now you're helping them with the stretcher. If you're upstairs, you get the Reeves, and you run down the stairs and all that.
There's so many losses. It's nice to have a victory.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I used to call myself the defibrillator of death because I lost more people than I could even count.
Those fucking defibrillators don't work.
I always said I should just hook the defibrillator up to the guy's balls and give him one last fucking jolt because I ain't saving him. I was. Listen, I'm not saying I was terrible at it, but in order to use a defibrillator, there's a certain time frame where you have to be there. I mean, the guy can't be dead for 24 hours and all of a sudden you hit him with a defibrillator. It's not a magic box.
We found a child that was missing. It was a 3-year-old. We found he just wandered off. He's in the woods. But I had kids at the time. And I remember I found him in the woods. He just wandered off. It wasn't the parents' fault. It was just bad timing. And I remember getting this kid, bringing him back, handing him off to the parents. I watched the parents give him this gigantic hug. And I remember standing there, and I actually put, how you put your hands on your gun and your radio? And I felt like Superman. I really felt like Superman. Mike, what do you think?
I mean, obviously, both of what you were talking about. I mean, that's everybody's. I think it's everybody police officer's dream. You know, like, hey, I did this. I would say, you know, mine was in the investigative bureau. You know, just getting through months and months and months of a case, and then you're
solving that puzzle.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and
When
that's
you finally cracked that case.
I know it's like, you know, obviously everything, like, you know, what you're talking about, you know, is fantastic, but it's, you know, I guess it's like work, and the most thing is appreciation. You know, believe it or not, like, hey, you know,
we're all retired now, so what do you think? What do you still love about the job?
the camaraderie. You know, it definitely faded away. You know, I love that part. I mean, I don't know, it's just not the way it used to be. You know, so I don't, you know.
Well, the big saying is once you retire, you miss the clowns, but you don't miss the circus.
Right.
You know, and that's it. I miss the guys. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the ability to actually be able to help people.
True.
You know,
But on another note on that one, Mike, I'm going to have to call bullshit because what we're doing here with this show, and that's our purpose, is to help people.
well, I'm talking helping from a law enforcement perspective. You know,
I help people. You don't. You just make them feel better about the way they look.
yeah, and I make them feel taller when I get there too, and younger,
And younger.
and a lot more hair.
Once again, the oldest guy in the room.
Go ahead.
Listen, we got to
Kids, Big Ben Parliament.
we actually got a World War II vet coming in who was in Normandy.
Really?
Finally, Mike won't be the oldest man in the room by like a year or
Wow,
two.
Normandy.
Yeah,
That's
a
kind of
couple years.
amazing.
Yeah, a couple years. But that's our plan. But again,
Did I ever tell you I want to be an air traffic controller?
They say that's the most stressful
It
job
is.
out there, right?
yeah, it is. But no, there was a whole story about us flying out to Florida, and we just kept going around Newark Airport because we couldn't find parking. It was a whole thing. It was like Big Ben Parliament from European Vacation. He goes by the first time. Hey, ever tell you I want to be an air traffic controller? Second time, same thing. Fifth time, same
See,
thing.
that's stress.
Yeah. But
Try driving with Kevin around an airport 52 times. That's stress.
We got there.
Yeah.
We got there. Listen, I'm early to everything, so thankfully, this is why I'm early to everything. But, you know, I love that job. I really did love that job. And there's a lot of things that I don't miss about it. I don't miss, again, I worked in a very toxic environment, so I would throw up before I went on patrol. But once I was out on the road, everything was fine. It was calm. I was the master of my own domain where I was able to either make a difference or do nothing. What I miss the most, and this is going to sound really crazy, is I miss doing accidents. I love doing it.
Oh my goodness.
I loved doing car accidents. Loved it. I love the math involved. I love to see what happens.
That's
Mike,
something wrong.
Mike, now you know what I'm dealing with. I mean,
Yeah. I was that guy who loved doing accidents.
Oh my goodness.
As a matter of fact, I made a deal with
that's the scariest thing for
I
me.
made a deal with
Kind of dispatcher.
I made a deal with a guy who used to work on the road. He used to be in the DB. He used to do a lot of DVs. I say, you take all the domestic paperwork. I will take every accident. You know I'm getting the short end of that stick. That's how much I hated domestic violence, but that's also how much I loved doing accidents. Because I loved you're showing up to people and they're in the worst. They're having the worst moment of that day.
Oh, I get it.
And you get to show up there. Look, it's going to be okay. You take control of the situation. It's very easy to take control of an accident. It's not very easy to take control of a domestic situation or any other situation where a crime in progress or somebody's really hurting or a medical call where you lose them. But for an accident, it was real easy for me to take control and give them a little bit of happiness, a little bit of peace. And I loved doing it. I loved the math involved in it. I loved the energy that was created. I was a crash guy. That was my favorite thing. And I also loved seeing what happens, the aftermath of it, following it all the way through. I imagine it's the same thing in the detective bureau. Again, I didn't have knee pads, so I didn't get in my detective bureau. And like both of you guys, I don't want to point that out. But
I got put in the detective bureau. I was in Iraq. So I don't know how that happened. I don't.
because I didn't think you were coming back.
I was like,
throw
oh,
this guy a bone. He
hey,
ain't
you just
coming
got.
back.
I was
He ain't
like,
coming
wow,
back.
that's kind of great.
Meanwhile,
I
you
gotta
got-
call my. I swear, I gotta call my cellular phone. I'm like, oh shit, we're getting mortared right now, and this guy's telling me I'm going into the bureau. I'm like, what the?
Meanwhile,
I said, hold on, let me
Chief,
just. I can't
Chief,
wait.
hang on. Keep firing. Keep firing. All right, what was
No,
that, Chief?
it was all meant good, I guess they didn't know what was going on at the specific time. I don't think a badge is going to stop that.
But that's a weird way to find.
I swear, I'm telling you. Yeah,
I think maybe they didn't think you
you
were
should
coming
know
back.
by now. My story. This is serious stuff.
Every once in a while, you throw something new out, and I'm like, "Fuck, man,
Yeah.
you really messed up,
Yeah.
dude."
Well, that's like, did I ever tell you how I found out I got the job in Lyndhurst?
On episode 9,
I was working for the sheriff's department at that point, and I applied for Lyndhurst. And one day I get a call from my then wife. She says, the mayor just called. I go, what do you have to say? She goes, you got the job. So what he did is he called my house phone and said, is Mike there? She said, no, he's working now. She goes, okay, good. Tell him he's got the job in Lyndhurst. He starts next Monday. That's the way I found out I got the job in Lyndhurst.
See, that's the hook.
that's the hook to bring it home. We've all seen a lot of different things. You guys were on a lot longer than I was. Not a lot longer, but longer. We've seen different things inside of our law enforcement careers, and you've learned a lot. Then if you said you didn't learn a lot, then you weren't doing your job properly. So, Mike DePalma, what do you think you've learned from the suffering of police work?
It wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. Meaning, I could have took different steps with, mentally. I could have made better choices.
I think that the main thing I learned is never take anything for granted. Never take another day for granted. You never know when the end is going to be there.
Okay.
You see a guy one day, he's all happy-go-lucky, and the next day you're at his house, doing CPR on him, or he's in a car accident. And we had a guy that was from our town. He's a retired trooper. One of the biggest, burliest guys you'd ever want to meet. Great guy, car fanatic. He's always tinkering with his cars and everything. No minor fender bender, and snapped his neck.
Mm-hmm.
He was paralyzed from the shoulders down from
Damn.
just a minor car accident. Just he hit it the wrong way, his neck snapped, and he was paralyzed. That was crazy. He has since passed away, God rest his soul. But great guy and happy-go-lucky, fun-loving guy, because he was retired, so he was fun-loving. And his life just ended right there.
Do we have to go back to the Mickey Mouse?
No, I'm taking that in right now. God darn it. Yeah, I guess complacency too.
He's still trying to think about what he learned in his career.
Yeah, I'm like, what the wiffle ball, dead body, Jesus God,
Sock up the
Wonder
ass.
Bread, sock up the ass.
So if anybody wants
Getting
to
me
know,
pinched,
if anybody wants to know about the sock
Mickey
up the ass,
Mouse.
go to episode 13.
Oh,
That's the
man.
suffering of addiction with Mike DePalma.
oh, I don't know this. I don't know. It's just it was a loving career, but it was also damaging.
That's a good one.
That's how I kind of, I can definitely contest to that. It's damaging.
A lot self-imposed also.
Very, very much.
It's very
Yeah.
very simple what I learned. It's you're never as bad as your worst day, and you're never as good as your best day. I've seen a lot throughout my career, and I've seen good people turn bad. I've seen bad people turn good. And it always gave me hope for humanity. I know that sounds like the greatest line made up in history, but I truly believe it because I've seen a lot of people throughout my life go both ways.
Mike, he tried to go deep on us real quick. What do
you mean?
Trying to
He
get all
did.
sentimental and look at
He
me.
just, I got to wind it up. That's the new. I don't know. That just came out. No, I got. No, it's true.
Mike DePalma, I love you, brother.
Always a pleasure having you
Wait,
in
I
here.
don't want to go.
We have to.
We have to.
No way, man.
The lights turn
The
out
studio
in
ain't in
about
my
5 minutes.
basement no
come on,
more.
I'm just getting started. Wait.
This is someone else's studio now. So.
This ain't my basement no more, brother.
But will guarantee we will have you back.
Yes, we will definitely
doubt
have you
about
back
it.
if you're willing to come back.
100%. I'm sleeping.
You're
downstairs.
sleeping here, Drew? Is that all right? We're good. All right. Yeah, he said there's all right. Okay. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned today. Nothing worthwhile is easy. It's not a job, it's a calling. Never take anything for granted, but most importantly, and it's not only because I said it, well, it is because I said it. You're never as bad as your worst day, and you're never as good as your best day.
He's but a self-promoter.
And episode 9 in Prairie Fire. Hashtag.
Hashtag.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. Don't forget to check out Belladama Cigars. Go to belladamacigars.com. Put in the code SUFFERING10 for a 10% discount. Check out Caffeine and Water, Toyota Hackensack, the Grand Saloon. We're all thankful for you. And don't forget to check out DenahDevelopmentProject.com and check out our nice challenge coins. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Police Officers, with Mike DePalma, Mike Failace, and myself, Kevin Donaldson. Find Mike on Instagram at Mike_Failace. Find me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And always follow the Suffering Podcast. Like and subscribe if you like what you're putting out. Follow our YouTube channel for updates. We'll be putting out about 2 or 3 episodes a week. And that's going to do it for this episode. We'll see you next time.